coming to Frontline.
I got my start as a community organizer.
I know how the private sector works. I know how jobs come. I know how they go.
For years, these two men have been telling us their stories.
He keeps a lot of his views to himself.
He knows that every step he takes is a potential landmine. People who have great respect for Obama will still say this is the most insular administration in their lifetime.
This October, Frontline looks for meaning in the lives, choices, and politics of Barack Obama and Mitt Romney.
He is a pragmatic business person. He's a guy who likes to take apart a problem and figure out how to get it fixed.
Barack Obama is a fascinating mixture of boldness and caution. But then once he makes a decision, it's usually the bold one.
Mitt Romney's been accused of flip-flopping, but on Mormonism he will never flip-flop.
And yet in politics, he has often tried to keep that part of him behind the curtain.
The backlash against his presidency must be mystifying to him because he genuinely doesn't see himself as a radical.
The Massachusetts healthcare reform, or Romney Care, and Obamacare. They're basically the same bill. But the minute President Obama adopts it, the entire Republican establishment flips, Romney with them.
I think there's a fundamental disconnect between our idea of Barack Obama and the reality of him. There is some palpable disillusionment with who he turned out to be.
This October, from Frontline's award-winning political team, The Inside Story.
What unites both of these characters is this sense that there was a place that they were going, a destiny that they had.
The Choice 2012, a Frontline exclusive. Coming October 9th to PBS.
As you might imagine, I disagree with the Supreme Court's decision, and I agree with the dissent. What the court did not do on its last day in session, I will do on my first day if elected President of the United States. And that is, I will act to repeal Obamacare.
But that discussion completely misses the point. Whatever the politics, today's decision was a victory for people all over this country whose lives will be more secure because of this law and the Supreme Court's decision to uphold it.
Governor Romney, you want it repealed. You want the Affordable Care Act repealed. Why?
I sure do. Well, in part, it comes again from my experience. I was in New Hampshire. A woman came to me and she said, look, I can't afford insurance for myself or my son. I met a couple in Appleton, Wisconsin, and they said, we're thinking of dropping our insurance. We can't afford it. And the number of small businesses I've gone to that are saying they're dropping insurance because they can't afford it, the cost of health care is just prohibitive.
It wasn't just that small businesses were seeing costs skyrocket and they couldn't get affordable coverage even if they wanted to provide it to their employees. It wasn't just that this was the biggest driver of our federal deficit, our overall health care costs, but it was families.
And we've got to deal with cost. And unfortunately, when you look at Obamacare, the Congressional Budget Office has said it will cost $2,500 a year more than traditional insurance. So it's adding to cost. And as a matter of fact, when the president ran for office, he said that by this year he would have brought down the cost of insurance for each family by $2,500 a family. Instead, it's gone up by that amount. So it's expensive. Expensive things hurt families. So that's one reason I don't want it.
Who were worried about going bankrupt if they got sick. Millions of families all across the country. If they had a pre-existing condition, they might not be able to get coverage at all. If they did have coverage, insurance companies might impose an arbitrary limit. And so as a consequence, they're paying their premiums. Somebody gets really sick. Lo and behold, they don't have enough money to pay the bills because the insurance companies say that they've hit the limit.
The best course for health care is to do what we did in my state. Craft a plan at the state level that fits the needs of the state. And then let's focus on getting the cost down for people rather than raising it with the $2,500 additional premium.
My life is so completely and totally different. I feared there for a while that it would never be the same. God is great, God is good, thank you for our food, amen. I'll take some potatoes. My name is Spike Dolomite Ward, and like so many Americans today, I got frustrated with what was happening in Washington. I was a registered Democrat, and I re-registered as an independent, stopped listening, and missed some very valuable information. We have always had health insurance. My husband had a really great job working for a local entertainment company, and when he got laid off, he decided to go into business for himself.
Paying for our own health insurance was really expensive. It was over $1,300 a month. And then when the recession hit, we just couldn't afford it anymore.
The day came when my husband said we can't pay for health insurance anymore. So it was a hard decision to make, but it was that or the mortgage, and we don't want to be homeless. And then the worst possible thing that could happen happened. When you get told that you have breast cancer and you're uninsured, there's no hope for you. If you have a pre-existing condition, there is no private health insurance company that's going to welcome you aboard and take care of you. I thought I would just fall right off the face of the earth, and then just being haunted by the fact that I could actually die and leave my kids too soon.
Bye, baby, I love you.
What's available to middle-class Americans who are uninsured and have a catastrophic illness? One of my dear friends discovered the pre-existing condition insurance plan, PCIP. 10 days after applying, I had health insurance, and I'm in treatment for stage 3 breast cancer. It's been the smoothest experience I've ever had with any health insurance company. With PCIP under the Affordable Care Act, anybody with a pre-existing condition qualifies for health care.
Getting covered gave me some hope, that we can get through this in one piece.
And I pay premiums just like everybody else with insurance. It's not a government handout. I criticized the Affordable Care Act, and the very thing that I criticized is what is going to save my life.
Meet Scott Womack. He owns a small business of 12 IHOP restaurants in Indiana and Ohio. Scott's restaurants employ nearly 1,000 full and part-time employees. Currently, he provides health insurance to only his management staff.
Well, the health care reform bill that passed is going to require that we provide health insurance to every full-time employee. I really believe you can't put a mandate on business like this unless you know that an industry can actually pay for it. And without a doubt, this industry cannot pay what is required here, not even the penalties. Our average revenue per employee is $58,000. Our typical profit per employee is $3,000. And this legislation is going to cost anywhere from $7,000 to $10,000 per employee.
If this is the bottom line facing small businesses, how will Washington respond?
We can't kill our way out of this mess. We're going to have to put in place a very comprehensive and robust strategy to help the world of Islam and other parts of the world reject this radical violent extremism, which it's certainly not on the run.
Your strategy previously has been one that has been all over the map and is not designed to keep Americans safe or to build on the opportunities that exist in the Middle East.
My strategy is pretty straightforward, which is to go after the bad guys, to make sure we do our very best to interrupt them, to kill them, to take them out of the picture.
A few months ago, when you were asked what's the biggest geopolitical threat facing America, you said Russia. Not Al-Qaeda, you said Russia. In the 1980s are now calling to ask for their foreign policy back because the Cold War has been over for 20 years. What we're seeing taking place in Syria is heartbreaking. And that's why we are going to do everything we can to make sure that we are helping the opposition. But we also have to recognize that, for us to get more entangled militarily in Syria is a serious step.
I believe that Assad must go. I believe he will go. But I believe we want to make sure that we have the relationships of friendship with the people that take his place, such that in the years to come, we see Syria as a friend and Syria as a responsible party in the Middle East.
America remains the one indispensable nation. And The world needs a strong America, and it is stronger now than when I came into office.
We recognize that there are places of conflict in the world. We want to end those conflicts to the extent humanly possible. But in order to be able to fulfill our role in the world, America must be strong. America must lead. Our Navy is smaller now than any time since 1917. The Navy said they needed 313 ships to carry out their mission. We're now down to 285. We're headed down to the low 200s if we go through with sequestration. That's unacceptable to me.
I think Governor Romney maybe hasn't spent enough time looking at how our military works. You mentioned the Navy, for example, and that we have fewer ships than we did in 1916. Well, Governor, we also have fewer horses and bayonets because the nature of our military has changed. We have these things called aircraft carriers where planes land on them. We have these ships that go underwater, nuclear submarines.
From the very beginning, one of the challenges we've had with Iran is that they have looked at this administration and felt that the administration was not as strong as it needed to be. I think they saw weakness where they had expected to find American strength.
As long as I'm President of the United States, Iran will not get a nuclear weapon. I made that clear when I came into office. We then organized the strongest coalition and the strongest sanctions against Iran in history, and it is crippling their economy. China's both an adversary, but also a potential partner in the international community if it's following the rules.
We can be a partner with China. We don't have to be an adversary in any way, shape, or form. We can work with them. We can collaborate with them if they're willing to be responsible.
Now, over the last 4 years, we've made real progress digging our way out of policies that gave us 2 prolonged wars, record deficits, and the worst economic crisis since the Great Depression. And Governor Romney wants to take us back to those policies. You know, we've been through tough times, but we always bounce back because of our character, because we pull together. And if I have the privilege of being your president for another 4 years, I promise you I will always listen to your voices, I will fight for your families, and I will work every single day to make sure that America continues to be the greatest nation on earth.
I'm optimistic about the future. I'm excited about our prospects as a nation. I want to see peace. I want to see growing peace in this country. It's our objective. We have an opportunity to have real leadership. America is going to have that kind of leadership and continue to promote principles of peace that will make a world a safer place. We need strong leadership. I'd like to be that leader with your support. I'll work with you. I'll lead you in an open and honest way. And I ask for your vote. I'd like to be the next president of the United States to support and help this great nation.
When people say, well, you don't believe in global warming, I say, no, I believe in global warming. I don't believe that human CO2 is causing that warming.
A few years ago, if you would ask me, I would tell you it's CO2. Why? Because just like everyone else in the public, I listened to what the media had to say.
Each day, the news reports grow more fantastically apocalyptic. Politicians no longer dare to express any doubt about climate change.
There is such intolerance of any dissenting voice.
Are some of the worst climate criminals on the planet.
This is the most politically incorrect thing possible, is to doubt this climate change orthodoxy.
Global warming has gone beyond politics. It is a new kind of morality.
Now, the Prime Minister's back from his holidays, unrepentant and unembarrassed about yet another long-haul destination.
Yet, as the frenzy over man-made global warming grows shriller, many senior climate scientists say the actual scientific basis for the theory is crumbling.
There were periods, for example, in Earth's history when we had 3 times as much CO2 as we have today, or periods when we had 10 times as much CO2 as we have today. And if CO2 has a large effect on climate, then you should see it in the temperature reconstruction.
If we look at climate through the geological time frame, we would never suspect CO2 as a major climate driver.
None of the major climate changes in the last 1,000 years can be explained by CO2.
You can't say that CO2 will drive climate. It certainly never did in the past.
I've often heard it said that there is a consensus of thousands of scientists on the global warming issue and that humans are causing a catastrophic change to the climate system. Well, I am one scientist, and there are many that simply think that is not true.
Tonight, the pace is quickening. 19 days before Americans go to the polls, your voice, your vote. And there's some new evidence that the president is gaining ground after this week's debate. Today, Governor Romney and his wife Ann were out making their case to women. ABC's David Muir is here. David?
Ann Romney on The View today. At one point, her husband was to come too, but in the end, he did not.
He said that he was not sure he wanted to come on with us because we're high risk and we're sharp-tongued.
No, he said sharp and young.
Humor and then a pointed question from Barbara Walters as both campaigns now aggressively court women in these final 19 days.
One of the things with your husband was that when he was a governor, he was pro-choice. And now is against abortions, except in the case of rape and incest in the life of the mother. I wonder what your views are. Were you the same way when he was a governor? Have you changed? I'm sure you've had discussions about this.
You know, the good news is I'm not running for office, and I don't have to say what I feel, but I am pro-life. I'm happy to say that. Mitt has always been a pro-life person. He governed when he ran as a pro-choice, but when a decision came across his desk...
Explain that to me.
When a decision came across his desk to use embryos for experimentation,
that's stem cell research.
He could not have on his conscience creating human life for experimentation.
Mrs. Romney then arguing the real help women ask for on the campaign trail is economic.
Economic help, you're talking.
Absolutely. And you know, women are going to have a choice. I mean, it's clear. If you really want to make a choice, and if those choices are about reproductive rights, that's your choice.
4 more years!
And in these closing days, Democrats are jumping on that sharp contrast. This new ad in Virginia where the race has tightened with what Romney said during the primaries about Roe v. Wade.
And take a look at this.
If Roe v. Wade was overturned, Congress passed a federal ban on all abortions and it came to your desk, would you sign it? Yes or no?
Let me say it. I'd be delighted to sign that bill.
And what was the president talking about in the battleground of New Hampshire today?
And when these young women graduate, I want them to receive equal pay for equal work. Governor Romney still won't say whether or not he supported a law to protect that right. Well, I got this guitar.
The president with a famous surrogate in Ohio, the firewall the president needs to hold on to. And Bruce Springsteen today talking about women.
I don't have to tell you the dangers to Roe versus Wade.
And this focus on women will no doubt intensify. In fact, tonight, Romney with his biggest lead yet in the Gallup Daily Tracking Poll. But new polls just this evening showing the president with strong leads in 2 crucial battlegrounds, Diane, Iowa and Wisconsin. The Obama campaign has to be happy with what they're seeing.
And both candidates in New York tonight, right?
Right here in New York at the Al Smith dinner. As you know, Diane, it's tradition to put aside the fight, trade it for some humor. But this comes just a couple of days after that duel at the town hall.
No end in sight.
I'm saddled with $45,000 in debt and I'm unemployed.
Over the last 3.5 years has failed young voters.
I heard it would be hard to find a job, but 9 months in my parents' basement, still no leads.
American college graduates are not only facing the worst job market in decades.
Half of my generation didn't get up and go to a job this morning.
Researchers fear this generation will have a significantly lower standard of living and less career satisfaction than that of their parents.
We want a president who's going to fix these problems, not make it worse for our generation.
And we're seeing more and more young people realize that their lives are not better off 4 years later.
I hear more and more that they're disappointed.
They're saying that President Obama is nothing like candidate hope.
We need real change and hope in the White House, and it starts with you.
Here's my plan for the next 4 years. Making education and training a national priority. Building on our manufacturing boom. Boosting American-made energy. Reducing the deficits responsibly by cutting where we can and asking the wealthy to pay a little more. And ending the war in Afghanistan so we can do some nation building here at home. That's the right path. So read my plan. Compare it to Governor Romney's and decide which is better for you.
Can you help us? And the answer is yes, we can help, but it's going to take a different path, not the one we've been on, not the one the president describes as a top-down cut taxes for the rich. That's not what I'm going to do. My plan has 5 basic parts. 1, get us energy independent, North American energy independent. That creates about 4 million jobs. Number 2, open up more trade, particularly in Latin America. Crack down on China if and when they cheat. Number 3, make sure our people have the skills they need to succeed and the best schools in the world. We're far away from that now. Number 4, get us to a balanced budget. Number 5, champion small business. It's small business that creates the jobs in America. And over the last 4 years, small business people have decided that America may not be the place to open a new business because new business startups are down to a 30-year low. I know what it takes to get small business growing again, to hire people. Now, I'm concerned that the path that we're on has just been unsuccessful.
4 years ago, we went through the worst financial crisis since the Great Depression. Millions of jobs were lost. The auto industry was on the brink of collapse. The financial system had frozen up. And because of the resilience and the determination of the American people, we've begun to fight our way back. Over the last 30 months, we've seen 5 million jobs in the private sector created. The auto industry has come roaring back, and housing has begun to rise. But we all know that we've still got a lot of work to do. And so the question here tonight is not where we've been, but where we're going.
We have fewer people working today than we had when the president took office. If the unemployment rate was 7.8% when he took office, it's 7.8% now. But if you calculated that unemployment rate, taking back the people who dropped out of the workforce, it would be 10.7%. We have not made the progress we need to make to put people back to work. That's why I put out a 5-point plan that gets America 12 million new jobs in 4 years and rising take-home pay.
The following preview was begrudgingly approved for all audiences by the President of the United States. The film advertised has been rated U, unwatchable. The year is 2011, and opposition rises.
Congressional Republicans could force the federal government to shut down.
And a president must face.
Republicans are serious about an amendment that would eliminate funding, it's a serious business, for the president's teleprompter.
His greatest challenge. From the people who brought you universal health care and the huge backlash to universal health care comes the incredible true story.
As our economy added another 20, to say that, they say that doing that'll work. Let's start over.
The president has lost his prompter. Joe Lockhart, has he lost the magic?
Savannah, he's gone from yes we can to no I can't.
I can't get that. I will also visit Chile. I will also visit Chile. Okay, let's try that again.
In his darkest hour,
Mr. President, what are you going to do?
the president turned to a man who never let prepared remarks stand in his way.
Axelrod wanted me to use a teleprompter, but I told him I'm much better when I wing it.
Ooh, baby, I like it raw.
Who broke all the rules.
His mom lived in Long Island for 10 years or so. God rest her soul. And although your mom's still alive. God bless her soul.
And spoke from the heart.
I've never seen so many damn insurance commissioners. One to buy a 30-inch hedge clipper. My Lord, I'm not that old. Actually, I am.
It's the story of friendship and the power of the human spirit.
This is only 2 lines. Okay.
You're making me feel better, bud.
But mostly, it's this for 2 hours.
And someone we appreciate even more, Natalie Portman. This is not on the teleprompter, but she's a heck of a lot better looking than Rahm Emanuel.
This fiscal year, join 2-time Grammy Award winner Barack Obama.
This is the coolest weekly address.
Renowned fruit and vegetable enthusiast Michelle Obama.
Hey, look, Sam, there's a carrot.
And Amtrak's Passenger of the Year, 3 decades running, Joe Biden.
There goes Biden again.
As a president loses his teleprompter, but wins the future. The president's speech.
My outstanding Vice President Joe Biden is here.
Hello, I'm Perez Hilton.
Did you know that more people in the United States check their Facebook and watch the Super Bowl than exercise their right to vote? We've got some serious issues to deal with. So how come so many of us don't even bother to vote? Is it because we don't care? Or maybe it's because we don't know our history.
So let's go back, way back. Our country's first election came after fighting for our independence, a fight that cost many lives, but it was worth it because instead of being ruled by a king, we were finally able to make our own laws.
But not everybody was allowed to participate. You see, back then, you had to own property, be white, and a man in order to actually vote. Now, things continued that way for about 80 years, until after the Civil War, when slavery was abolished and all men were given the right to vote.
Now hold up a minute. Just because we had the right to vote didn't mean we could use it. See, all these new voters wanted to participate, which threatened the people in power and their ability to stay in power. So they tried to stop us with violence and shady new requirements like literacy tests and poll taxes. We had to fight for nearly 100 years before the Voting Rights Act passed, which finally outlawed these dirty tricks.
And you weren't the only ones that had to fight for your right to vote. Somehow women got left out and had to organize and fight state by state. Until we took our fight to Washington and finally got our right to vote all across the country. And even once the laws guaranteed every person the ability to vote, you still had to be 21 in most states. So when our government began drafting people under 21 to go fight in Vietnam, they realized their lives were at stake and they had no say. Young people all across the country rose up in protest and demanded that everyone over 18 should be allowed to vote.
And since then, young people's votes have been crucial in deciding lots of big elections. Like in 2008, when a black candidate had a real chance to become president, young people showed up in record numbers. And every year, we make up a larger share of the voting population, giving young people more power, but only if we participate.
So let me break it down. Together, there is so much we can decide, like whether or not we should go to war, or how we spend our money, and how we power our lives.
We can determine who has the right to marry, and who has the right to choose, what possessions should be outlawed, and whether or not we should legalize.
It's up to you to make your choices and shape our future. If we sit on the sidelines, then others will make it work for them instead of us. So let's make our voices heard.
So what would it take for you to vote?